My wonderful, beautiful, amazing Sagittarius. I'm Gabriella from Gabriella's Vampire Tarot. For this evening, we are going to be doing the Vlad Dracula Tarot. Ooh. So we're pretty much coming up close to that All Hallows Eve special occasion that I keep talking about. And anyway, so this reading for this week, or at least for today, for even Sagittarius, is going to be based off the 11 card Vlad Dracula cross spread. So anyway, I'm not going to be talking about like the historical parts of each card, but I will talk about the titles of each card. Like for number 1, you get Page of Swords. And it says here, card 1, the significator forms the base of the cross. Everything in this reading will be built upon this foundation. What do we know about pages? Whether it's the Page of Wands, Cups, or Pentacles, or even this beautiful sword. And of course, you could have Aquarius, Libra, Gemini placements. But it's pretty much having this outgoingness. This is like an adventures kind of card. And what do we know about Sagittarius? You guys love adventures. And that's what I find so remarkable, because the thing is to actually have that desire, this need, to want to get out and to see things. Maybe, travel to different locations, countries, cities, what have you, in other ways. But it's, yeah, because, then you can actually, gain, new experiences, new insights, new flavors, ideas, what have you, in other ways. Instead of just thinking, okay, I just gained all of my experience from maybe somebody else's experiences, or maybe from literature, or from any other type of medium. But that's kind of what I will love, is that this is pretty much like the base of today's reading, is it's kind of like going out on an adventure, which is one of my key themes that I pretty much just feel like represents Sagittarius in any way. So then we get number 2. 9 of Wands. Okay, feeling exhausted beyond belief, but you're just not giving up. So card number 2, crossing the significator. This card represents the challenges that will have to be overcome in order to achieve the desired outcome. So the thing is, it's like, I feel like, even though you might be exhausted beyond belief, the fact is that you are not going to give up on whatever goal or voyage you're heading down towards in other ways. So I just think this is a very, very actually strong and powerful combination, in the sense where you have this desire to want to get out, you have this desire to want to travel, maybe, but just having this adventurous outgoingness, even though maybe you could still be struggling with maybe feeling exhausted, of thinking, well, I'm going to have to be doing a lot of preparation work. I'm going to be having to pack, my, travel bag in other ways, or a suitcase, or I need to, we'll have everything organized and stuff like that. I mean, I will tell you, this was kind of interesting, because when the human and I actually, we actually did this like mini little European tour, and because we were just, looking at the buildings of these very beautiful opera houses and concert halls, like, in a few, locations and stuff like that. We were practically gone for like maybe like, 4 or 5 days or something. But anyway, I barely had to pack anything, because I was just only wearing one outfit. But the human, of course, the human had to pack like maybe, another set of clothes, or maybe, some kind of like, oral hygiene, or even, personal hygiene, equipment and stuff like that, or even, like a brush of some kind. But of course, well, the thing was, I barely had to pack anything, and then, my human was just kind of all over, thinking, oh goodness, what do I need to bring? And I think, well, okay, from the perspective of a vampire, nothing really, but of course, from the perspective of a human, well, you want to make sure that you have everything, even, these, cameras and stuff like that, so. But it was interesting just to watch him just kind of pacing around, just thinking, oh goodness, we need to make sure we have everything organized. So I think he also kind of had like a 9 of Wands moment himself. Because then we're going to head off towards card number 3. Knight of Cups, Cancer, Pisces, Scorpio. So card 3, above the significator, this shows the skill or ability you'll need to have in order to achieve the desired outcome. So the thing is maybe you have to be, open to accepting, any kind of offerings and stuff like that. Or maybe you're going to be the one who's going to be proposing and offering something as well. But again, it is just a general reading, so take it how it resonates. But I feel like, it's like maybe you do actually have to be open-minded. At least, try to keep an open mind with any kind of offerings, and try not to maybe, immediately, reject or shut down any offerings as well. But I think, in some of these other readings that I've done, if something just seems a bit too good to be true, it's pretty much practically like a fool's gold kind of offering, or any kind of, like, like, like a full reverse kind of card feeling, It's like, I just think, okay, if something is too good to be true, it normally is too good to be true, and then I'll try to avoid those things just like anything. So, but of course, it's good to actually gain as much insight and experience as possible before you actually look at, any kind of offerings taking place. So, because then we head off towards number 4, the 7 of Stakes. 7 of Wands. Okay, so card 4 above card 3. This is the first bar of the cross, forming the basis of future and past events. This specific card represents present circumstances. Okay, so you're pretty much, kind of, I'm not really getting the word feisty all too much, but you're kind of like, protecting some kind of cause, some kind of goal, you're pretty much a hardworking individual in other ways. You know what I'm kind of getting? Is, if you pretty much have to, like, deal with any kind of like finances or, some kind of financial decision or some kind of whatever it may be, I do see that there's a bit of hesitancy. I do see a little bit of a struggle in other ways, but I do see you also putting in a lot of time and effort, probably gaining as much insight as possible, before you actually proceed with any kind of Knight of Cups offerings in other ways. So I just think, because, normally with the, in the Rider-Waite deck, you see this person holding a wand, and, this person is kind of hovering over, like, the 6 of Wands and stuff like that. So it's kind of like this person is more or less just kind of protecting his or her crops, idea children, and stuff like that in other ways. So it looks like that you're putting in a lot of hard work before you even, head off towards any kind of offerings and propositions. Because then we get to card number 5. 6 of Cups. Okay, Nostalgia City. Okay. Card number 5 above card 4. This is the second bar of the cross. It shows the highest possible outcome and is an indication of what will be. Well, the thing, I feel like that this is pretty much a straightforward kind of response in the sense that you pretty much actually know how you're going to go about it, and you're going to look at the past and to actually remind yourself to think, I'm so glad we actually went through this 9 of Wands, a little bit of a struggle. But mind you, that whatever worth having doesn't come easy. And the worth part is what you have to look at. Sometimes you do actually have to struggle in the sense where you have to, maybe, go back to some kind of academic institution. Maybe you have to, go through, many financial appointments till you actually get this really good insight and a good understanding. So you can pretty much just think, okay, I know exactly what's going on. Will I accept, or will you accept in other ways that Knight of Cups offering, yes or no? But anyway, it looks like that, you made a really good decision in any way. You're going to be looking at the past with such happiness. Then we get to cards 6 and 7, but 6 is about the immediate future. 10 of Wands. Okay, so there's definitely going to be some hard work, coming up for you. So that's kind of what I was actually hoping would actually happen, in the sense where you pretty much just realized hard work will eventually pay off. Because in the immediate past, you got Queen of Pentacles. So here it is that you were probably in some kind of career or maybe financial mindset with the Queen of Pentacles. And then in the future, you're going to be, knowing exactly which direction you're going to be heading off towards. And you know exactly how to go about it in other ways. So then, it's like, of course, the 10 of Wands is not really the best card, but it does show that as long as you work hard, you will eventually, will be in a very beautiful nostalgia position of thinking, yes, I'm so glad I proceeded with that voyage and quest, because everything just looks incredibly promising. And that's what I like to actually hope will resonate and also guarantee for my beautiful Sagittarius out in this world, is that hard work will eventually pay off, and that, something is definitely going to click into place. And then, you'll be looking at the past and think, oh, maybe you have to like take an economics lesson of some kind, right? And so at first you just think, my goodness, I'm just so tired of having to be reading all this dry material. I just barely understand it. But then, well, you do get the 6 of Cups thinking, I'm so glad I actually gained, some form of experience and insight about it. And so here you are actually heading off towards whatever goal is pretty much going to be guiding you towards. And then we get cards 8 and 9. So 8 is about the distant future. Two of Cups, partnership, maybe getting some kind of job or career. And then in the past, you got Nine of Cups, fulfillment. So it just seems like it's going to be getting better and better and better for my beautiful fire signs. Because the thing is, it's like as long as you pretty much keep at it, as long as you don't give up, as long as you just kind of think, okay, this is just only a temporary, situation. We're going to have to maybe be struggling with in other ways. But the thing is, as long as you gain a lot of good insight, experience, knowledge, maybe you do have to take an economics lesson. But the thing is, it's way better, going down a path like that than just, receiving some kind of fool's gold kind of offering saying, oh yeah, if you want to invest your money at my bank or at my financial institution, we offer also like free this and free that. And you think, what's going on here? It's like, because those are usually, tiny little, fishing lines that, these, humans, they throw out just to say, okay, you have to throw out a couple of free items so it pretty much draws people in. And then eventually, you'll just kind of, deceive them very subtly and stuff like that. So, but I feel like that you're actually taking a more appropriate and healthier, path and voyage, even though the last thing you probably feel like doing is having to be, learning about finances or even having to keep up with your job and stuff like that, right? So, and then we get cards 10 and 11, the outcomes of all outcomes. So 10, you get Nine of Swords. Okay, I see a lot of inspiration, motivation for you, but then you might get hit with the Five of Cups as well, disappointment. Okay. What this is mostly advising me to advise you, because the thing is about the outcomes of all outcomes. It doesn't have to be the all outcomes, because you do get the Six of Cups as well. The thing is, it's like if you pretty much, act in haste, you're going to repent in leisure. So my advice for you is, like the Knight of Swords, have a lot of motivation and inspiration. But, the problem that I just kind of will mostly see is if you act all too quickly, with any kind of decision, you might actually, lose like a real big portion of whatever, or you might, what have you, because the Five of Cups is that you're losing, the majority of your cups, but you still have 2 cups left over. So it's not like it's all lost and all game over. It's pretty much, that you could have been, deceived somehow. Maybe you were actually being misled. But I think, the best way to kind of go about like today's reading is to, to acclimate yourself into any kind of like a work or job, ask as many questions, maybe reach out to other people, but always, keep everybody's advice, even my advice for that matter, with a grain of salt, and just always listen to what you personally want to, do and head off towards in other ways as well. So, well, my beautiful Sagittarius, as I know this is pretty much a little bit shorter than usual, but I feel like that I kind of wanted to keep things a bit on the shorter side, with regard, instead of having to over-explain, and then, you pretty much just think, okay, I already got that, first point, Miss Gabriella. But I just think, okay, it's like, it's always good. I know I'm just, repeating myself right now, but it's always good just to kind of educate yourself with any kind of voyage, and the main crux, is just pretty much just don't give up. That's, I think, with a lot of humans is, it's like, disappointment is not fun. It's like, even, when I occasionally lose a couple followers, it's not fun for me, but I just pretty much, I'm just so happy and, so glad with the amount I have right now. And that's pretty much also kind of like, yeah, just, looking even at the past and thinking, I'm so happy, with my current position right now as compared to a lot of these humans and stuff like that. But of course, I'm not human, I'm vampire, but even then, I'm just so blessed with, even my way of how I went about things. So even then, it's like, okay, disappointment is not fun. But I just think, just keep at it, and just, we'll keep at, the hard work, and eventually something is going to, pay off in your favor either way. But other than that, I love you guys. I want to thank you so much for joining me. And next week I'm going back to general readings. And then the week after that, the week of the All Hallows Eve, I'm going to probably do, the Dracula before we actually, reach that beautiful October 31st. And please feel free to stay tuned for the upcoming performance, stuff like that. I'm going to be having a lot of, prep work in advance before that. But other than that, again, take good care of yourself, maybe, open up a economics book here and there, maybe to spend 10-15 minutes reading something about how to finance or what have you and stuff like that. But other than that, I love you guys. I want to wish you all the best of luck on this journey, and as per usual, take good care of yourself.